Hello, everyone. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Welcome back to the Into the Ether podcast, where we bridge the intersection of health, human behavior, and machine intelligence. I'm very excited to be joined by our special guest. I'm here with Juliana, founder and CEO of Reimagine Resources, a full service commercial fitness equipment company that's reshaping how gyms are built and maintained. Juliana's story is incredible, to say the least. She started with just $500 and one treadmill in her parents' garage during the pandemic and has built it into a comprehensive B2B solution serving commercial gyms nationwide. She is recently named in one of the top 10 in under 25 innovators by the St. Louis Business Journal. Welcome, Juliana. I hope you're doing well. If you could just start off by kind of giving a brief overview of yourself, your journey, and how that led you into founding Reimagine.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me and for inviting me on here. Happy to always talk about our story and the health and wellness industry and kind of how we can promote that and share more awareness about that. So getting into my background and kind of like how I started the company is it was definitely a wild journey, and any entrepreneur, any business owner would, I'm sure, have their own story as well. I find it always fascinating to hear about other people's journey because they're all unique and interesting. So my background was not in health and fitness at all, wellness, none of that. So I actually had a background in nonprofit before this. I got my undergrad in finance and my master's in international business. So no formal training within this side of things, but it all kind of started during the pandemic with everything shut down across the world. Essentially, all the supply chains were cut, slowed down and disrupted, and so you couldn't go to the gym, and so that's where I wanted to work out and get fit, and decided I wanted to have my own home gym, and so that's where everything started, and started collecting some used gym equipment off of Facebook Marketplace, asked my parents if I can use their garage to store some things, and it ended up into a business, and into what we're doing today. It's definitely a wild story. I did not anticipate having a business. We started in the pre-owned home gym equipment side of things, and I said I didn't want to have a business selling used workout equipment for the rest of my life. Like, that wasn't cool or sexy. It wasn't like, technology, or AI wasn't back then, but like just all the technology that there was, or I had a finance degree and I didn't want to be selling used stuff on Facebook Marketplace, right? But eventually I was pushed into and led into, I guess, what we're doing today and being able to serve customers. And so I think that's the big focus is like when everybody was in the pandemic, they were looking for something to stay fit. They were quarantined and you couldn't go out. And so it was a great way for people to work on their mental health. And so we saw a spike in fitness, and it's continued post-pandemic with that, as well as more health-enabled apps, more wellness apps, more mental health apps. And I think that's just continuing to grow and become more prevalent, but also more needed in today's, environment and society, as there's just so much, other things going on in the world today, whether it's personal life or just globally around the world, and we have access to all of those things. I think that's, a big driver probably of just the importance of mental health. So yeah, I think there's a lot that goes hand in hand with fitness and the rise in the equipment that we see, or the people using the equipment, and mental health.
Amazing. That's an incredible story. And I think everyone watching has probably at one point during the pandemic, I know I did, thought about selling fitness equipment as well because it's the entrepreneurial thing to do.
Right.
And it's amazing that you've kind of acted on that and built an incredible business from that as well. So that's amazing to see. And I guess for someone listening, what would be, in a few short sentences, the crux of your business? Like, how do you help other commercial areas, and how do you provide other people with their fitness setups?
Yeah, so we didn't start out as strictly fitness, even home gym, like pre-owned gym equipment. I was also selling like tools and kayaks and trailers and just a whole bunch of different things during the pandemic, because I just thought it was fun, and we didn't have anything else to do. So during the pandemic, that's what I did. Post-pandemic, I had to specialize a little bit more. But really, a lot of what we did was driven by our consumers and the market itself. The data that you read lags behind, and while it is faster today than 5 years ago, it still lags behind the actual data that's currently going on in the market. When people ask, hey, can you deliver our treadmill? Can you fix our treadmill? What I did, we said, hey, we don't know how to do that yet, but I can research it. We can figure it out. And if we don't fix it, then you don't have to pay for it, right? So that's kind of how we started. And so just a lot of people trusted us to take care of them and to serve them and to do our best, right? And so that's how we developed into the different categories. We, continued working on the home gym side of things, and we got more education in that. I got certifications in becoming a service provider for many of the, or several of the, large manufacturing companies. And so now today we design gyms. We have a 3D system that we can help lay out the gyms, help design them, put the equipment inside of it. It's really neat. We're also able to help procure the equipment from 20 plus different brands that we hold, and counting, including mirrors, flooring, gym wipes, all of that, right? And then we're also able to install equipment on the commercial side. And today we're mostly commercial, but we're also able to do the installation for them and then the preventive maintenance and repairs. So we're also working with a lot of the manufacturing companies to do their warranty work and their installation. So we work on projects and we're able to go across the country. We actually recently just sold something in London as well.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we're super excited about our growth, bringing on new people, and just expanding and empowering the fitness industry and people's health. So I like to say that we're full service, but we're also trying to become a hub for the fitness industry and the resources that they need. So we have like a marketplace for other people in gyms, business owners to be able to sell their equipment on our marketplace, to see about the fitness industry events that are happening across the world, and having that in a central location. And then just having additional resources for them, whether we can serve them right now or maybe in the future when they grow. Like a lot of boutique gyms, they like to do things themselves, which is great. So we want to be able to provide the services for them in a different way, but also just serve people well in the fitness industry and become a hub and a resource for them.
Amazing. No, that's super powerful. I think it's a all-in-one, one-stop shop for any kind of commercial facility that's trying to develop their kind of facility. So it's an amazing service that you guys provide. And you mentioned your finance background. How has that kind of shaped your decision making, day-to-day entrepreneurship background? Because we see entrepreneurs from all aspects, and it's very interesting to see how they actually shape their business, because a business is kind of a self-reflection of its CEO founders, and they can grow and develop in different ways. So it'd be amazing to hear how your finance background has shaped your decision making in business.
Yeah, so I guess both the finance side makes me a little bit more conservative in understanding from a high level of kind of the financial side of things, of how we want to go about things. We are bootstrapped all the way through, and we continue to be bootstraps, just reinvest the money into our company and to grow it, to build a good culture in our company, good people, good training, that kind of stuff, right? Because it was an asset light or asset heavy kind of company where we purchased equipment, then we sold it, inventory on the line. So that really drove like some of the number side of things. And then having essentially my international business degree, that's an MBA, like that really helped understand like just because you're making money doesn't mean you're making a profit, right? And I think a lot of business owners definitely, if you don't have that business background, don't always understand that. Just because you can go out there and do a job for $50 doesn't mean that you're going to make that money, because you probably spent that in the time and resources to get there. And then at that point, you're not actually making money. And I think it's very prevalent in my industry and the service side of things of like, hey, like you can go out there, sell equipment, or like you can go out there and, service equipment, but just because you can do it for $50 doesn't mean you can actually grow a company that way. And so understanding the margins that you have to keep a business going, to keep it healthy. And if you don't, then you won't have business.
Yeah, that's very true. Profit is king, and a lot of business owners forget that. They think revenue is key, but you've made it to, I think, your halfway mark now. A lot of 99% of companies don't make it to the 10-year mark. So congratulations on that, and I know you guys will keep flourishing. Amazing. And I guess in terms of when you speak to gym owners, when you speak to these facilities, about the equipments and services, what are the biggest frustrations and how are you able to kind of plug those?
Yeah. So as far as the gym owners side of things, managers, people that we hear and see, I guess it depends on the type of customer it is, and kind of like what they're doing. I would say a lot of people is people's motivation, right? They want to get healthy, but they're not willing to put in the work, and so the trainers get frustrated on that side of things. The owners, maybe it's they don't have the workforce that they would like to have to staff these gyms. I think that's the other thing. And then just retention is always one for gyms to continue having that. As far as like different trends in the industry that we hear coming up, it's definitely technology that's trending in the industry, and how to integrate that into the fitness industry, as well as AI, these training apps. How do you interconnect the health and fitness apps, wellness apps, into their fitness experience? How do you gamify it? How do you make it fun in a community? So I think there's a lot of aspects within the fitness industry that we could touch on and just kind of explore. But yeah, the recent thing that I've been hearing is about like games, basically gamification of like the CrossFit games, but there's like other games now that people are doing to not just have like you're working out, but one, it's a community if you're doing competition and you're like doing it with somebody, or if it's just like you have this goal to do something versus just working out for the goal of working out. I heard that's one trend, and then recovery is a huge one as well. So hydro beds, saunas, cold plunges, it's just a lot of different types of recovery products out there are really big right now.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think because the industry's, I don't like the word saturated, but I think there's so many players in it, everyone's trying to come up with their own unique element to it. I guess, did you ever find that? Because I can imagine the health and fitness industry has been there for a while, and especially the equipment as well. Did you ever find breaking through that mold, and how did you get past those established brands who've been there for a while, been selling and have those customer bases, and how did you kind of break into the market? My assumption would be through the customization you're able to provide, the one-stop shop bit.
Right. So that would be like our primary, differentiator would be the aspect of the service side of things that's hard to duplicate, that's less fungible for other people to create, like the culture, the values that you create in a business, and the service that you provide in the operational side, right? So the equipment itself is not a differentiator in and of itself. Like while we do procure and test and definitely do our research into the brands that we hold, it's not like the primary differentiator for us. We actually work with the manufacturers, like all the different big brands out there, to do work on their equipment. So for example, you order a Peloton in your house, we could come out there. They also own Precor, come out there and install that equipment at your gym. And so that's how we like work with the manufacturers. We don't actually have to always sell the equipment to be working on the equipment either. So we can come into a facility, it's under warranty, and they don't have to pay a dime, like it's under warranty. And if it's covered under there, we'll just do the work, do all the paperwork, and they just get a fixed machine, right? It's an interesting way of understanding like how the industry works and what services we provide, who we provide it to. But and essentially, in some ways, it's a white label service for other manufacturing companies or other companies in a different way. Maybe we're building out a place with a construction company, right? Or somebody else just contracts us to do the full design of a space, and then we'll do that.
Amazing. And kind of revisiting the COVID aspect of it, because as you mentioned in your intro, the aspects of COVID, obviously everyone was like, yes, I need to focus on my health and wellness and my mental health. Do you think, as you mentioned, those trends have actually dipped down, continued, or actually risen because of that and just spiraled and snowballed for since then?
Yeah, I think it's risen for the most part. They're not doing it at home as much anymore. They're maybe going out to places. So Crunch Fitness, I know, is growing a lot. They're opening a lot of different places, as well as a lot of different clubs as well. So the low cost, high value kind of box gyms, those are, I think, will continue to be very popular. While they have classes, you can do things on your own. There's apps out there. They're very low cost that you can get into, work out. I think to your point, where it's like mental health is like the pandemic made people realize health and wellness and mental health is super important. And among young people, it's continued to be important. But even the baby boomers these days, like they're in the gyms, they're like it's maybe a different style of fitness, right? But they're staying active, and there's active aging, there's silver sneakers. I know our industry, like association, the fitness industry, they've been, asking and trying to push bills that would help the fitness industry in like using your your healthcare plans to pay for, and I think this is more specific to the US, but healthcare plans pre-tax dollar into the health and fitness, whether it's going to a gym, equipment, etc., right? And so there would be more of an influx for, I guess, equipment and health and fitness. So much of the US is spent on healthcare, and if more people were healthy, they would be spending less on healthcare, right? So healthcare is an issue in the US, and so that's being fit, going to the gym, working on your mental health, recovery, etc. That would helps your medical expenses.
Yeah, that's so true. I think so many people focus on trying to just tape up the injury with a band-aid, if you could say, instead of actually going for the root cause and preventing it in the first place. And if that shift could happen, that'd be absolutely massive within the industry. And your company's empowering people to go out and train and be healthy. I guess in terms of your successes, progressing from COVID and from year to year, were there any notable occasions where you were like, wow, this is allowing us to expand? Was it through a partnership of some sort? What areas would you say have been most beneficial for the growth of your business?
Yeah, I would say because we were bootstrapped, we also had to be very particular in how we did things, very customer centric, very customer focused. What does the market say? What do they want? What can we provide? And how do we get better at that? And just being very focused on that. Exploring different things. If that doesn't work out, like fine. Like I think in this space of like being an entrepreneur, doing something different in a space that you haven't been in before, you do your research, but then you just try it out. Like, does it work, does it not work, and then make a decision really quickly about like, is this worth us going into, do customer discovery, or should we just like, okay, we tried that, move on, right? And so looking at the holistic, I guess, picture, you could say even as the health of the business, where the economy is going and how do you fit in that. I would say like some of the big things that we've done that helped moved us forward would be our advisors. Definitely having good advisors. Like while I'm the owner and the founder of the company, I do have good advisors, good mentors who help me along the way. We've had some great partnerships with manufacturing companies, with people that, took a chance on allowing us to do some work for them. And, they liked it and allowed us to continue working with them. And so, I think all of the above was definitely helpful. And then just having a mind shift or just saying like, hey, we can do something different. This isn't working out, right? So post-pandemic, there was a bullwhip effect where the industry was saturated with home gym equipment. And so we quickly went into the commercial side of things, but commercial can take up to a year, 2 years to actually get going. And so that's where there was that 2-year lag where, we're essentially changing our whole business model from home gym equipment to brand new equipment and a whole different customer segment. And then we were just selling used stuff. Then we went to brand new equipment. We had to do logistics, figure that out. And then internationally, we sold a couple of things now. So, getting into that side of things has been interesting. And so now we're an asset light company where we don't hold our inventory. A lot of times we're the project managers essentially for a project where we'll work with the different manufacturers, work on logistics of that, right? And then work on installation and service. But we're not actually holding the inventory in our warehouses.
Amazing. Yeah, I think a lot of entrepreneurs, and especially at that early stage, maybe a few years ago, if anyone is listening, they always fall into the trap of holding equipment and having stuff in stock and having that asset value when it's not necessarily important and it's just looks good on the books. I definitely think that's the way forward. And because of supply chain and logistics, as you mentioned, and how quickly stuff can get out nowadays, it allows you to be like, and I guess with that as well, do you partner with online retailers who push out your products and you kind of connect them and allow them to sell the products that you stock with your manufacturers?
So we don't do that at the moment. Right now, we're working on more controlled growth, I would say, and just being able to be very specific about how we serve people and making sure that we're serving them well at this point as we grow and having that infrastructure to be able to scale even more in the future. But I can definitely see where, like for our industry, even if there was a recession, like then you do service, right? So we're a little bit more recession proof in the fact that if you're not selling equipment, then they're probably fixing equipment, right? So we get both ends of the scale on that things, and then we're full service. So then if you're not selling it or fixing it, you're getting rid of it, or maybe you're buying used, right? So we don't really do used too much anymore, but you still have to move that used equipment. The warranty work is always going to be there because that's 3 years in advance. If you're doing construction, they already have, a budget for that stuff. So, for us, it's a bit more stable, and that is nice. And then we're trying to, explore other ways that we can innovate and bring in more value as well.
Amazing. Yeah, I was wondering because of the worldwide scene and you're kind of going into the international markets as well. Do you guys see a difference in buying behavior for international markets as well as adoption compared to the US market?
Yeah, so I went into my MBA international business degree and be like, I want to build a company that goes international. It's going to be great. And then I got in there and they're like, not every business should be international. And I'm like, so that is what I learned. Not every business should be international, but there is some advantages of going international. The world is becoming more regional, I would say, and then also more alliance based versus truly international or global. There is definitely different buying power across the world as well. So the US actually holds the majority of the fitness industry, both the manufacturing brands, they don't always actually technically manufacture it, but the brands are all mostly in the US.
Yep.
The money is mostly in the US, the buyers are mostly in the US. But if you're looking at the full cycle fitness and the equipment side of things, then you see that the developing countries, there's a lot of opportunities with that, especially on the pre-owned equipment side of things. And then you, of course, have the Americans, expats, or American brands that are in different countries as well that will, they're based in the US, but they have stuff overseas. People like in Europe typically are more fit in general. They go outside more, they're more active outdoors, and then they have smaller places, so more boutique places, I think, than like the big gyms that are like 40,000 square feet in the US as like a
Yeah.
typical thing. So I would say that's a difference. Privacy from the equipment side of things, understanding, okay, so what are the laws on the pre-owned stuff? Not all pre-owned equipment can be shipped to a different country because of rules and regulations for that. The service side of things, some countries don't encourage the innovation or entrepreneurship as much, and so it's harder for small companies to come into those spaces. You have to look at the infrastructure because this is heavy equipment. How is it going to be transported? How is it going to be set up? If it's electrical, do they have the setup for the electrical things? Do they have stable internet connection, TV connection, all that kind of stuff? Like, is that set up there? So it just depends on where it is, right? And then if you're talking about shipping, right, you're shipping from the US to a different country, and that could be, if it's a small item, that could be as much as the item itself, right? So just thinking about all those aspects that go into building a gym, repairing a gym, and then just like being in a gym itself.
Yeah, no, a couple of amazing points there because I always get fascinated by well, in the UK, it's and I'm guessing a lot of Europe as well, but in the UK, brick and mortar businesses don't get promoted as much, and it's tough to get off the ground. So I can vouch on that kind of buying behavior in terms of that pattern there. It's super interesting. You're right. There's no need to expand out. The American market's so big that there's so much to capture even before kind of moving out and capturing a hold of the nation first. But in terms of your kind of sustainability goals, do you guys have a sustainable equipment or do you go towards sustainable recycling, etc.? And how do you kind of tackle that element of the industry?
Absolutely. So we're very values driven, values focused. We want to serve our customers well and then also be good stewards of what we have. And that includes, the way that we do things. And sometimes it's maybe not feasible, maybe it's more costly at the end of the day, right? So you have to take in that into account. But some of the things that we do is definitely we recycle equipment safely and properly. We take some of the parts and stuff to get them refurbished, and then like we basically sell them to a refurbisher. We take them to them so they can fix them, put them back into other things that are useful. We also, of course, like recycle the cardboard, etc. A lot of times if it becomes a lot, right, a lot of companies, they just throw it away. But when we can, we'll just recycle it. As far as the other equipment, if it's still usable, we of course make sure that something's safe first, but we'll donate fitness equipment to different nonprofits locally, wherever, people are wanting to get rid of their equipment. So we do paid extractions, but if they want to donate that equipment, we'll try and match them up with an approved and verified like 501c3 in the US, and make sure that it goes to a good place. Where we've had a burn company, so like some survivors of burns. We've had people, the Salvation Army. We've had a drug addiction location for helping people get out of that. Yeah, we've had just like a lot of different kinds. We've had universities or rather like schools that are wanting some equipment. So we've been able to donate a number of pieces of equipment, as well as recycle a lot of equipment as well. So we kind of think about the full cycle of things. That's why we have a marketplace. How can we utilize that? If we're not serving them, we can still be involved in some way. So that marketplace that we have on our website is 100% free. And then, of course, we prepare equipment to make it last longer and keep it going.
Amazing. That's super powerful. It's always great to see a company that's so sustainable facing and also consumer facing in the long term. So that's really powerful. And in terms of your kind of ideal situation, so let's say we fast forward 5 years, how do you see Reimagine?
Yeah, hopefully we continue being a leader in the industry, being able to make an impact. And so, for me as a person, while I like fitness a lot and I'm passionate about, health and wellness, I guess I'm driven by the values, like whether it's fitness or something else. I want to build something that helps other people. I want to have something that, at the end of the day makes people better, right? And so whether it's fitness or something else, like that's what I want to do. And so we want to be able to expand our reach, be a leader in the industry, show people, and be a company that serves people well, our clients, right? To be able to be a company that treats our employees well, that really invests into them, and then also just like being good partners with our, with other partners that we work in the industry, making sure that we do a good job, putting systems and processes in place, innovating in the industry. So just really, I would say, being a leader in the industry, being the best that we can be, and then serving other people well and making an impact in their lives.
Amazing. That's a very powerful goal as well. And I guess if we could kind of tie it in, if there's a magic wand that you could wave, what would be one kind of problem that you would solve within your business, or even maybe for gym owners? I guess we can kind of tackle both.
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say a big part of it, honestly, would be people, right? Like people, I think, are the thing that can make life exciting and happy and so many good things. But also, like if you're in a bad spot, it can also be, it affects every aspect of your life, right? It affects the way that you work with people, the way that you interact with people. We've interacted with a lot of people, both on the residential consumer side as well as the business side. And when your life and you're not healthy as a person, it affects everything else. And if we see in the world today that, more chaos, more people, I guess you could say, acting out, but usually that's a result of they don't have internal peace, they don't have good mental health, and they don't have a solid identity in who they are. Who they've been created to be, right? And so I think that would be one of the things that would help maybe our industry, the fitness industry, and probably every aspect of life.
Yeah, I think that would increase adoption of all of the businesses and allow people to kind of really focus on, I guess, what we touched on earlier, the actual root cause rather than trying to fix it. But it's weird that I think society promotes the opposite in this day and age. And I guess the final question about your kind of like expansion goals. You're targeting national expansion. What's kind of the reception that you've felt expanding out of the Midwest and going into other areas? And even is there like differences in buying behavior? I know we touched on international, but is there differences in adoption between the states? Because I know they're so big. Like the UK's only the size of Texas compared to all the other states in the US.
Right, right. So yeah, the U.S. is super large. They have different buying patterns, across the country, even within the Midwest. St. Louis is very different than, other Midwest. So we've definitely seen the Midwest is typically considered as less fit as the rest of the world or the rest of the U.S. So, while we've done well here, I definitely see us, expanding more. into the East Coast regions. And so there's definitely a good reception there. So we're expanding there, looking at the cities that have growth in population, young people, etc., and then finding different avenues to go into that. And mainly it's been through our partners. Like, they're like, hey, like, can you do this? And we say, yes, we can do that. Like, let us, we'll either travel there, we'll develop that area, and then tell other people, like, hey, we can do that area and develop that. So that hasn't been too much of a challenge. It's been exciting to see different places. I always enjoy learning about the different nuances in different places, how they do things, why they do it that way, and how does that tie into the fitness industry, whether it's like Utah, where they're maybe more Mormon and they think about their bodies a little bit more, and, right, or LA, where they're wanting to be more like entertainment and I guess more socially, they kind of are expected to have that kind of look, right? And so
Yep.
just thinking about the different things, or maybe the East Coast, New York, that's more business owner and they're trying to have performance and like overall like have good performance, right? So just thinking about the different areas and what's important to them and how they get to fitness. I think there's a lot of different avenues to like why you're doing fitness, whether it's mental health, whether it's weight loss, or just longevity or functionality in the job that you're doing. There's a lot of ways that get into the fitness industry, and understanding your why is, I guess, helpful for us as we expand. And then like on macro level, why does that whole city want to go get fit versus other ones? We see sports as also a driving factor, as sports are more popular and more important to certain areas. So like the US, we love our American football, right? So typically we're more strength based than we are more like cardio, like soccer or football. To the international folks out there, they are more like cardio based, and they do more outdoor stuff. They do more cardio workouts versus like they want to, like, they're meatheads and like want to just lift heavy weights all the time. Like, you don't typically see as many of those in other countries as the US. So I would say that's about the US. Expanding internationally, we'd love to continue expanding internationally, get more projects in different spaces, and including the UK and Europe. We'd love to continue to expand outside the US as well. The developing countries, as far as like Asia, has more disposable income. They're going to different places, the Middle East. There's always rich people in every country. So somebody in every country can afford fitness equipment. And if we can be there to provide that to them, and we'd love to do that.
Amazing. No, yeah, the Middle East is really an interesting one. I kind of see it as a gym every couple of weeks nowadays. But no, that's amazing that you've got such high aspirations and goals for the company. Juliana, this has been incredibly insightful. You're really building the future of facility management in real time. And I guess as a final note, from an entrepreneur to other entrepreneurs kind of listening, what would you say to other entrepreneurs who are scaling innovative service businesses like yourself?
Yeah, I would say in this industry and this type of thing, where it's both physical aspect and the service aspect, be well researched, but then also execute. There's a lot of good ideas out there, but it's the ones that execute that really make the difference. You can have a good idea to do all this stuff, but it actually takes a lot of work to do it. And to really assess, like, what do you want at the end of your life? What do you want at the end of the day? Like, what's your goal? I think in whatever you're doing, right, understanding your why is important. That helps drive what you're doing, especially when things get tough, because you're going to question yourself, like, why did I do this? Like, I could be doing something else. I don't have to have this stress, right? So anytime that I'm doing something that's challenging within the company, I'm just like, well, I asked for it, right? Like, I chose to do this, and if I didn't want to do this, well, I could always just get out, right? So I choose to be in this role. I choose to be challenged and to grow in this way. So just understand your why and, embrace the suck.
Amazing. And if people wanted to connect with you or reach out to Reimagine, where would they find you?
Yeah, so good place. You can always go to our website, check out what we have on our website, reimagineresources.co, or any of our social media platforms. Sometimes I'm on LinkedIn a little bit more, but then, of course, Facebook, Instagram. We're working on increasing our YouTube and TikTok. But so B2B has a little bit less social media, but trying to work on that.
Amazing. Well, thank you everyone for listening and to another episode of Into the Ether podcast. It's been Juliana from Reimagine Resources. We've had a blast having the conversation and a pleasure having you on as well. Thanks again for sharing your entrepreneurship journey, and see you guys later.
Thanks so much.